All right, good morning. Man, we should get everybody to scoot up like 30%. And a big old gap here. All right, pride. You read the chapter from Bridges. Super helpful. Probably my favorite treatment of pride is from C.S. Lewis. So, Mere Christianity, probably must reading, I think. Modern day classic. But if not, his chapter on pride, I think might be, I don't know, the chapter on love is probably the best chapter in the book, but the chapter on pride's a close second. And here's what he says. He calls pride the great sin. That's the name of the chapter. And he says, there is no fault which makes a man more unpopular, and no fault which we are more unconscious of in ourselves. And the more we have it ourselves, the more we dislike it in others. You ever notice that? Like, aren't you just a masterful heart surgeon when it comes to other people's sins? And typically, the sins in others that bug you the most are probably the ones that you struggle with the most, whether you realize it or not. He goes on to call pride the essential vice. He calls it the utmost evil. He says it was through pride that the devil became the devil. Pride leads to every other vice. It is the complete anti-God state of mind. Jonathan Edwards said pride is the first sin that ever entered the universe and the last that is rooted out. It is God's most stubborn enemy. Augustine called it the root of all sin, the queen of vices, the turning away from God and to the self. Those are strong words, aren't they? The great sin, utmost, most stubborn, queen of vices. Augustine calls it the love of one's own excellency. Calvin called it the root of idolatry. Pretty big deal, right? All right, so then we should probably take it seriously. How is the fall of man related to pride? Is there any pride in that first sin? Be like God. That's kind of the main thing, right? You will be like God. You will know good and evil. And it's not just the idea of having an awareness of it. It's you're going to be the one who determines it. In other words, basically the temptation was to take God off the throne and put yourself on the throne. It's pretty much what it was defined as, right? Turning away from God and to the self. So it's right there at the very beginning. Satan fell because of pride. Big deal. We want to take it seriously. So when we talk about pride, though, is there one type of pride? What are some various types of pride? Intellectual pride. Look at me and woe is me. Keyword being me. What else? Intellectual pride, despair, arrogance. Family pride, being proud of your family. Your heritage. National. Say it again. Sorry, help me. Have to win, yeah. Competitiveness. Have to be on top. Quality of work. Yeah, that's good. Say it louder. Ethnicity. Racism is ultimately pride, isn't it? Yeah. Your own talent. Competence. You'll notice all these have like a fine line where they're not all wicked by themselves, right? It's that line in your own heart that only you know or it tips over. Doctrinal, related to intellectual. Yeah, that's good. I've got 11 types. So what we want to do is just peel away, but also in our own hearts. That's part of the way we want to hit it from various angles. If this is the root of every other sin, the queen of vices, well, we want to take it real seriously. So, number one, probably most common, self-righteousness. thinking you are righteous in yourself. Lewis's book, Screwtape Letters, if you're not familiar, it's an elder demon teaching a younger demon how to take down a Christian. He calls self-righteousness, Screwtape calls it, quote, the strongest and most beautiful of the vices, spiritual pride. Self-righteous. Flip over to the Gospel of Luke, chapter 18. The Pharisee and the tax collector. Let's pick it up there at verse 9. Luke 18:9, he also told this parable to some who trusted in themselves that they were righteous. What a great definition of a Pharisee. Not only historically, but in all of our hearts. All of us have this inner Pharisee that comes out at various times and because of different things. Trusting in ourselves that we are righteous, and therefore, and here's what always comes next. Anytime you have self-righteousness, you have a judgmental spirit and treated others with contempt. Those always go together. The moment you are trusting in yourself, you're also going to treat or view others with contempt. Verse 10. 2 men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee, the other a tax collector. And remember, they were the nasty people. The Pharisee, standing by himself, prayed thus, God, I thank you that I am not like other men, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all that I get. But the tax collector, standing far off, would not even lift up his eyes to heaven, but beat his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but the one who humbles himself will be exalted. Again, Lewis says, any of us may at any moment be in this death trap. Luckily, we have a test. Whenever we find that our religious life is making us feel that we are good, above all, that we are better than someone else, I think we may be sure that we are being acted on not by God, but by the devil. The real test of being in the presence of God is that you either forget about yourself altogether or see yourself as a small, dirty object. It is better to forget about yourselves altogether. How do you know if you're struggling with self-righteousness? You're breathing, that's right. About to say you are. What are some indicators, especially when it comes to fighting it in our own lives or helping one another fight? What are some symptoms or indicators of a self-righteous heart? Gossip. Absolutely, because what's happening with gossip? There's probably multiple things, but one of the things you're doing is you're talking down about someone else or sharing some juicy morsel in order to make them look bad, but often it's not so much about making them look bad, it's about making you look better. And so I want to tell you and downplay them and make me look like a hero. Gossip's huge. What else? Can't be wrong. Just always got to be right. Always argumentative then. Unteachable. Refusing to go to God with your sin. Refusing to confess sin. Yeah, man, oh man. Absolutely.
When someone points it out to you.
Bristle when someone points out your sin. Defensiveness. Defensiveness is a big indicator.
I feel like if you find yourself scoffing at the sin of others, but not necessarily because it's God's glory that's been offended.
Scoffing at others, caring less about others than God's glory. Yeah, that's good. Kind of related to gossip, I think one key indicator is just a critical spirit. You're just constantly criticizing people. How much are you talking negatively about people? Again, it may not just be gossip, but just in general. Or kind of related, complaining. Related to contentment, we've seen these are all related, but if pride is the root of them all, even if you're constantly kind of complaining, you're ultimately saying, I deserve things to go better than they are. How can we fight self-righteousness? What are some tools to fight and help one another fight against self-righteousness? Serve others. That's good. Confess sin. We're gonna finish with more tools, but I just want to stop and talk about this one a little bit.
Not just serving others, but shoulder to shoulder with others, because then they can point it out in you.
Yeah, having relationships such that someone can point it out. And listen, this is the point of the local church. It's just Christian friendships where we love one another, know one another, trust one another enough that we can actually call one another out and not be defensive and prickly, but receive it. Proverbs are full of the wisdom of receiving confrontation. I had to do this recently. A guy was basically just had to throw his own credentials quite a bit, and I felt it in the moment, and I chickened out. I wanted to love him well by graciously saying, I'm sure hearing a lot about you, but I came back. I got some courage later, and I called him, and it went really well, actually. He was very thankful. He said, I didn't even see that. I see what you're saying. I'm going to wrestle with that. I trust we both grew because of the process. We're going to talk in a minute about focusing on the gospel to help us with this. Specifically, justification by faith alone is huge, but also think about the doctrine of unconditional election. This doctrine tends to be very controversial and polemical, and people fight about it, but just put that aside for a moment, and really whatever you believe about the details and specificity of it, the doctrine of unconditional election is the idea that God chose you before creation. And that word unconditional is really important. You know what that means? You didn't provide a condition. You know what that means? Had nothing to do with you. Sometimes go read Romans 9. Jacob and Esau, before they were even born. No condition whatsoever. So the reason you're here, the reason you're a Christian, has nothing to do at the end of the day with you, but with God's sweet and sovereign unconditional grace. Also, if you're a reader, read Flannery O'Connor. Anyone ever read any Flannery O'Connor? Raise them high. Higher. Okay, we got to work on that. They're short stories. A lot of them are like 20 pages. Flannery O'Connor hated self-righteousness, probably because she battled with it in her own spirit, and so she would get feisty. Always helpful. Start with her story, Revelation. Number 2, different kind, moral superiority. Similar, but I'm thinking a little less in terms of we're trusting in ourselves vertically, but more horizontally. Moral superiority. How does this come out? Being dismissive of other people. Jared's going deeper. I was thinking like Aggie rings. Just kidding. Let me confess, and I'll confess on Cooper's behalf as well, the fact that we cannot say Southern Seminary without the definite article. Those poor Southwestern graduates got the lapel pin. I don't have my Aggie ring. I'm right with you. I got the lapel pin. It also comes out a lot politically in politics. And man, the country's bonkers right now, y'all. It is absolute craziness out there on so many levels. So it's easy, though, for us to have conversations that need to be had. And there's a lot of problems on the left. But then when we dismiss them as if we're better, then we've lost the gospel. If there's moral superiority, thinking that you're better as you have these conversations, well, all of a sudden we've left the Christian faith. Number 3, a need for recognition. This idea that you just have to be noticed. You have to get the credit. You make yourself the hero in your own stories. Listen to Charles Spurgeon. In telling your own experience, be wisely cautious. Say much of what the Lord has done for you, but say little of what you have done for the Lord. You need not make much effort to be brief on that point, for I'm afraid that there's not much of it, if all were told. Do not utter a self-glorifying sentence. Let us put Christ to the front in the joy and blessedness that comes of faith in him. And as for ourselves, we need not speak a word except to lament our sins and shortcomings. And so fight this tendency in your own heart to want to be set apart, whether it's just privately or goes publicly. You just want to be, I'm better, I'm not normal, I'm above the normies. Fight that. You don't try to distinguish yourself. Timothy Dwight was the president of Yale back in his Christian days, back in the late 1800s. Anyone know who his grandfather was? Timothy Dwight, president of Yale. Anyone know who his grandfather was? I was curious. Okay, Jonathan Edwards, who actually has, his legacy is pretty amazing. Well, one of them was the president of Yale. He said this in one of his addresses to his graduating students. He said, but among all the passions, meaning like fleshly desires, sinful passions, above all the passions which mislead, among all the passions that endanger and harass the mind, none is more hostile to its peace, none more blind, none more delirious than the love of distinction. That's what the old timers used to call this idea. I want to be distinct. I want to be different. I want to be above, the love of distinction. And pride's first cousin, kind of related to this, is this old word that I still like, vainglory. I don't know that it's in the ESV, King James, Philippians chapter 2. The ESV calls it conceit, I think. Do nothing from selfish ambition or, in the word there, conceit, or King James, a vain glory. The word for vain is empty. Because any glory that you're trying to get for yourself is empty at the end of the day. Do nothing. Do nothing with your own glory in mind. Gregory calls vainglory pride's immediate offspring. So it's related. Vainglory is the need for attention, approval, acclaim, and applause. Pride may just stay in your heart. You may just be a proud person and no one knows it. But vainglory needs all to see it. Vainglory wants others to see your supposed superiority. Pride is the desire for preeminence. Vainglory is the need for public preeminence. You just have to be known as the best. Any fictional characters come to mind that is like an embodiment of vainglory? Sometimes caricatures can be helpful. Who do you think of when you hear vainglory? Someone that just has to get all the credit. Don't name people if they're in this room. Thinking novels, movies. Anyone come to mind? I don't know that. I shouldn't have said it. I'm not going to know anything you say. I know no pop culture. Maybe 80s. Sauron? Okay. Maleficent? Okay, I don't know that, but trust you. Gaston. Can you sing for us? Gaston. If you don't know that reference, that's probably worth a YouTube search. 3 minutes of your time. That's going to be hard to beat, Sarah. That's going to be hard to beat. Gaston, Gaston. Who said that? Who said that? My guy. Michael Scott, I have a quote for you. It really is the pinnacle of vainglory, right? And it's really pathetic. It says, do I need to be liked? Do I need to be liked? Absolutely not. I like to be liked. I enjoy being liked. I have to be liked. But it's not like this compulsive need, like my need to be praised. Need for recognition, number 4, the name dropper or the one-upper. Aren't these people just tough to be around? Like they always know a guy. Oh, yeah, I know that guy. Always talking about all the important people I know. Always has a better story. When you're around someone and they relate a story and then someone follows it up with a better story, just slap them in the face and call them Uncle Rico. Or pray for them, that's probably better. The name dropper. And so we can jokingly with one another say, oh, nice one up. Someone does that, just a gentle way, nice one up. Or, way to humble brag, way to drop the name. Number 5, the shy person. The shy person. We may not think this is prideful, but how could shyness be pride?
Encourages you to dig deeper to get them to come out of themselves.
You have to pull them out. They're quiet. They don't talk much. How could it be pride? The need to be pulled out? Just bottled in?
Very self-conscious.
Self-conscious? It could be that they have plenty of thoughts, but they're fearful of saying them because of what other people might think, which is pride.
They can also think, though, that
Other people aren't worthy of what they know, so they just stay silent.
they can't accept it, so they just be quiet about it. I'm the only one that knows.
Yeah. It's complicated. It's layered, isn't it? The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Number 6, the incessant talker. Proud people talk a lot, typically. And sometimes we just dismiss this. It's just a personality trait. They're just shy. Or they just talk all the time. That's who they are. Yeah, the trait is a proud heart from which words incessantly flow. They dominate rooms they're in. They won't let anyone else get in a word. They reek of self-importance. Maybe you've met with a person and you realize, an hour later, I don't know that I've gotten 2 words in and they haven't asked me a single question about me. They just talked and talked about themselves for the entire time. Or in group settings, they're the first to speak. They speak the loudest. They're the last to speak. Anytime there's an open mic, they're there. Proverbs 10:19, where words are many, transgression is not lacking. Where words are many, transgression is not lacking. Do you know someone like this? What's their name? We'll pray for them. Just kidding. Incessant talk. Number 7. Here's a weird one. You can be proud of your humility. Just landmines everywhere. This is the danger of teaching about humility. Again, Screwtape, the demon, talking about the Christian. Your patient has become humble. Your patient, the Christian, has become humble. Have you drawn his attention to the fact? All virtues are less formidable to us once the man is aware that he has them. But this is especially true of humility. Catch him at the moment when he's really poor in spirit and smuggle into his mind the gratifying reflection, by Jove, I'm being humble. And almost immediately pride at his own humility will appear. If he awakes to the danger and tries to smother this new form of pride, make him proud of his attempt, and so on, through as many stages as you please. Make some progress in humility, and then we might notice, and we got to start all over. Number 8, competitiveness. Wanting to be on top. All I do is win. Lewis again defines pride as essentially competitive. Not just the pleasure of being on top, not just the pleasure of having something, but the pleasure of having more. Not just the pleasure of being on top, but the pleasure of being on top of others. That way you can also see it's related to envy, isn't it? They're all related. The beauty of that is we do work on any one of these sins. We're going to help do work in other sins. Number 9, doctrinal pride. We have the truth. We're the right ones. A real challenge for conservatives, whether it's politically or theologically. 1 Corinthians 8:1, love builds up, knowledge puffs up. John Newton, one of my pastoral heroes, author of Amazing Grace, but he was an Anglican pastor, ended up being in London. And he's got a letter, really good. You can get Newton wrote a ton of letters. His best ones you can get online for free. This one's called On Controversy, and he's writing to a young pastor about doctrinal disagreement. He says this: Whatever it be that makes us trust in ourselves. Hear that Luke 18 language? Whatever it be that makes us trust in ourselves that we are comparatively wise or good, so as to treat those with contempt who do not subscribe to our doctrines or follow our party, is a proof and fruit of a self-righteous spirit. Self-righteousness can feed upon doctrines as well upon works. And a man may have the heart of a Pharisee while his head is stored with orthodox notions of the unworthiness of the creature and the riches of free grace. Look at that last one again. A man may have the heart of a Pharisee while his head is stored with orthodox notions of the unworthiness of the creature and the riches of free grace. Isn't that ironic? That we can be proud of our total depravity? We can know in the head, but it doesn't translate to the heart. And again, doctrinal disagreement, doctrinal discussions need to happen at times. Extremely important, but we must beware of doctrinal pride. Augustine said that there are three things essential to grasping truth about God. The first part is humility. The second part, humility. The third, humility. Roger Nicole, a Reformed Baptist guy, said, I would say we owe it to our opponents to deal with them in such a way that they may sense that we have a real interest in them as persons. That we're not simply trying to win an argument or show how smart we are, but we're deeply interested in them and are eager to learn from them as well as to help them. And that's also a really good reminder. If you ever get heated, if you ever get irritated, if you feel in your heart a hostility towards a fellow believer as you're talking about doctrinal differences, remember, you're going to be with them in glory for eternity. Treat them that way. Again, John Newton says, the Lord loves him and bears with him. Therefore, you must not despise him or treat him harshly. The Lord bears with you likewise and expects that you should show tenderness to others from a sense of the much forgiveness you need yourselves. In a little while, you'll meet in heaven. He will then be dearer to you than the nearest friend you have upon earth is to you now. Keep that in mind. Again, Augustine, if anyone thinks he has understood the divine scriptures or any part of them, so you're thinking you're learning your Bible, you're getting some doctrinal sophistication, anyone thinks that, but cannot, by his understanding, build up this double love of God and neighbor, he's not yet succeeded in understanding them. If you think you're growing in biblical literacy, you think you're growing in doctrine, but at the same time, your love for God and your love for people is not growing, you're becoming a Pharisee. Number 10. 10th type, resistance to authority. Autonomy. That was really what happened in the garden in Genesis 3, this self-rule, autos nomos, self-law, self-rule. You just don't like being told what to do. It's pride. Whether it's the smallest things like, speed limits, or maybe it's parents, maybe it's submission to husbands, maybe it's to church leadership. You resist authority. Number 11. Ministerial pride. Now, this one's more to our leaders, in some ways more to me, but I have to mention it because it's a reality. Is Ashley in here? Ashley Rodriguez? Okay. Every time I go to a Baptist, so not really like our circles, the doctrinally sophisticated ones. The ones that care about theology actually mostly care about faithfulness, not numbers. But when I go to like a broader pastor type meeting, I have to ask Ashley. I don't have to, but I often ask Ashley one question because I know I'm going to be asked. Anyone want to guess what that question is? To use the Southern Baptist language, what you running, brother? I want to puke every time someone asks me that. What you running? What do you mean? I just walk away. I slap them, call them Uncle Rico. They want to know how big your church is, as if that's some indicator of your, moral worth or something. Again, fiction's really helpful. I'm hesitant to recommend this book, but there's a book that just, again, a caricature of ministerial pride in a guy named Elmer Gantry. Anyone read Elmer Gantry? Raise it high. 2 people, all right. We need to read more literature in this room. It was written in 1927, Sinclair Lewis. It was actually banned from all kinds of places when it was put out because it's quite sacrilegious. That's why I'm hesitant to recommend it. But it nails it. Let me just read some one-liners about Elmer. So, really gifted guy. He was going to go into law. and end up seeing I can actually get more famous going into ministry. It's kind of making fun of Billy Sunday. That was really the shadow figure there, but Elmer, except with his widow mother, whom he vaguely worshiped, and with Jim Lefferts, Elmer assumed that he was the center of the universe and that the rest of the system was valuable only as it afforded him help and afforded him pleasure. Self-centered. He says he was certain, so he gets converted. He was certain that he would never again want to guzzle, drink alcohol, to follow loose women, to blaspheme. He knew the rapture of salvation, yes, and of being the center of interest in the crowd. And then he gets converted and he leads his first revival, and a bunch of people get saved by walking the aisle. And he says, mighty few fellows ever pulled off a conversion as soon as after their own conversion as I did. Moody, none of them. I'll bet it busts the records. Then the little line, and he, as he's preaching for the first time, Elmer warmed to the splendor of his own voice. Pastors have to be careful. They talk a lot. Here, look at this. I'm in a room with 200 people, and y'all are all listening to me. I better be close to the Lord, unless I warm to the splendor of my bunch of words. That I'm going to say a lot of words today. Ministerial pride is real. Then the book ends. The chastened and positively for the last time reformed Elmer lasted for days. Positively for the last time, just a self-centered guy. No, Elmer Gantry, do you know what one of the main keys to battling ministerial and combating ministerial pride is? Say loud.
Sharing the pulpit.
Sharing the pulpit. Yeah, that's true. Even more than that. Boom. A good wife. Come on, somebody. That's right. And just a good dose of reality. Listen to Corrie ten Boom. When Jesus rode into Jerusalem on the back of a donkey, and everyone was waving palm branches and throwing garments onto the road, do you think for a moment it ever entered the head of that donkey that any of that was for him? If I can be the donkey on which Jesus Christ rides in his glory, I give him all the praise and all the honor. To the end of the day, ministers should just open the book and let God go to work, and we're just the donkey, right? And, it's really amazing what God will do through you when you don't care who gets the credit. All right, what are some solutions to pride then? What is the solution to pride? What is the opposite of pride? Others before yourself, also called humility. Spurgeon's definition. Humility is the proper estimate of oneself. Mahaney's got a really good book on humility. Humility is honestly assessing ourselves in light of God's holiness and our sinfulness. Honestly assessing ourselves in light of God and our sin. Again, Lewis in that chapter, do not imagine that if you meet a really humble man, that he will be what most people call humble nowadays. He will not be a sort of greasy, smarmy person who's always telling you that, of course, he is nobody. Probably all you'll think about him is that he seemed a cheerful, intelligent chap who took a real interest in what you said to him. If you do dislike him, it will be because you feel a little envious of anyone who seems to enjoy life so easily. He will not be thinking about humility. He will not be thinking about himself at all. That's really helpful. Keller's got a little book that's really just taking Lewis's insights and then reflecting on 2 Corinthians 4, a little 40-page book called The Joy of Self-Forgetfulness. It's worth your time as well. I would start with Lewis. But man, isn't that it? That's what you want. You just want to forget yourself. I mean, that's where joy is. Open over to 1 Peter chapter 5. First Peter 5, we'll start in the middle there. There in the middle. Clothe yourselves, all of you, with humility toward one another. For God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time he may exalt you. 2 commands. First, he says, clothe yourself. You have to put it on. Why? Why in this verse do you have to clothe yourself in humility? In this verse. Why? How do we know there's a connection there? For. Those little small words, right? The most important words in the Bible. Why should you clothe yourself? For, because God's opposed to the proud. God opposes proud people, and he's talking to the church here. The creator of heaven and earth, the sovereign king of the universe, the judge of all the earth, is opposed to proud people. I don't know about you, I don't want the opposition of God Almighty. I want him to be for me extremely. I know he's for me in the gospel, but here experientially, God's against the proud. He's not for them. Rather, he gives grace to the humble. Who wants more grace up in here? I want all the grace I can get. He's opposed to the proud. He pours out grace to the humble. Sign me up. That's what I want to be about. Okay, so then how do we do it? How do we clothe ourselves? How do we humble ourselves and help one another humble ourselves? 9 more ways. 11 types, 9 ways. Number 1, focus on the gospel. This is why the gospel is just so central to everything. And look at all the different elements of the gospel. I mean, think about the incarnation, the fact that God himself humbled himself. The God of the universe becomes a man. He has to have his diaper changed. Philippians chapter 2, though he was in the form of God for your sake, he became man. He took on the form of a slave. So the incarnation shows us the humility of God. And so we focus on that, and that should induce humility to us. Or the cross, right? Again, God, the Son, dies on an instrument of execution for you. Humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. Mark 10:45, the Son of Man did not come to be served. Wouldn't you think that it would do? That's what he would do. The King of the world, the King of the universe, the one who spoke the world into existence and the universe is upheld by the word of his power. Wouldn't you think that he would come to earth to be served? The Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. Just incredible. Focus on his cross. Think about justification by faith alone. That word alone is really important. That means it ain't faith plus you. It means it's faith alone, and faith is fundamentally receptive. That's why we'll talk often about the empty hands of faith. You know what you contributed to your justification? The sin that needed forgiving. That's your contribution. And so when you reflect on this teaching of justification by faith alone, the fact that you're not righteous in yourself, you need a righteousness that comes from outside. Think about Philippians chapter 3 and the Apostle Paul, he's got the resume, man. He's got it all. Hebrew of Hebrews, of the tribe of Benjamin, a Pharisee, yes to the law, blameless, yet all that I consider as trash. I consider as rubbish. Why? Because at the end of the day, what I need is to be found in Christ, not having a righteousness of my own that comes from my own doing, but that which comes through faith in Jesus Christ, the righteousness from God. It's a gift, the imputation. So what in the world do you have anything to be prideful about? We got nothing. All we have, he gave us. So we focus on justification. We focus on his divine approval. Here's the thing. Every human being is hardwired for approval, for greatness, for exaltation, for recognition. Every human heart is on this quest for approval, whether it be in a relationship for love, from your daddy who never gave it to you, being great at your work, you're looking for it. And you're never going to get it. And even if you get a semblance of it, that's not the approval you were created for. You were created for a divine approval, divine affirmation. And you know what? In the gospel, you have it. You have it. Divine affirmation. Not because of you, because of Christ. So number 1, focus on the gospel. I could probably stop there, but let's keep going. Number 2, realize you're a creature. What does Spurgeon say? A proper estimate of oneself. Recognize your limitations. Sleep helps. You have to go to sleep. You have to lay down for 8 hours horizontally at the end of a day. You can't even make it more than 18 hours. Recognize your limits. Romans 12, by the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think with sober judgment. Don't think more highly than you ought. And so realize, man, I'm just a created being. I love the ending of The Hobbit. He's done quite a bit, right? And it ends with this phrase, you're only quite a little, unless you're tempted to take some credit for everything that has gone on, you're only quite a little fellow in a wide world after all. That's all of us. You're only quite a little fellow in a wide world after all. Thank goodness, said Bilbo, laughing, and handed him the tobacco jar. Or Lewis, the horse and his boy, Bree. As long as you know you're nobody very special, you'll be a very decent sort of horse. That's good. That's good wisdom. You're nobody special, and you'll be a decent human that way. Serve God in your time. Number 3, remember, not only you're a creature, you're a sinner. You're a sinner. We've sinned in the way we've, straight out the womb, we're estranged, Psalm 58:3. And we've sinned in word and thought and deed. We're sinners. What do we deserve? Again, it's the one thing, friend, that you deserve in this room is condemnation. That's it. You do not deserve your next breath because you're depraved in heart, mind, and soul. We're sinners. What do we deserve? We don't deserve grace and we don't deserve mercy. The phrase, there but for the grace of God go I. Just think about that. Anyone you're tempted to criticize and dismiss, the only reason you're not there is grace. Number 4, talk less and listen more. James 1:19, be quick to listen and slow to speak. Which is really, listening is just another form of love. Giving of self for the good of another. Listening can be hard, right? It's a way to love. Work to be interested in others more than yourself. That's just Philippians 2. Consider others more important than yourselves. And one of the ways you can practice that today is that you're going to talk less and you're going to listen more. David Brooks, he's not a Christian, but I find him helpful at times. He's got a book on how to know a person, and in it he talks about diminishers versus illuminators. He says diminishers make people feel small and unseen. They see people as things to be used. Illuminators, on the other hand, quote, have a persistent curiosity about other people. They've been trained or have trained themselves in the craft of understanding others. They know what to look for and how to ask the right questions at the right time. They shine the brightness of their care on people and make them feel bigger, deeper, respected, lit up. And so work to talk less and ask good questions, listen more, speak last, not first. So grow in the skill of asking good questions. And man, it's actually a lot of fun. It's a fun way to live life because people are fascinating. So grow in your curiosity about other people. You know who's really good at this? Those of you who know our missionary partner, Aaron M. You can't get a question in with that brother because he's just constantly hold on, bro, you're on furlough here from overseas. Let me ask you a question, dadgummit. Quit asking about me. I want to know about you. So talk less, listen more. Ladies, I need to confirm this. I think there are only 2 things in the New Testament that God calls precious. One's in 1 Peter, and it's the precious blood of Christ. He says it again, the precious blood, the precious blood. The other is in 1 Peter as well, 1 Peter 3. The beauty, God finds this very precious, the beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit. It's a virtue to be cultivated. Again, thinking of literature. Anyone read Theo of Golden, Raise 'em High? Oh, yeah, come on. A little bit better there. Let's see. Anyone recommend it? Keep 2 hands high. Let's go. Sarah, don't recommend it? Oh, okay. I said 2 hands high. Gotcha. So one of the beauties of Theo of Golden as a novel is a lot of novels are easy to paint really dark pictures. It's just easy to write about darkness, think Cormac McCarthy. But to write about something beautiful is really hard. But he does a good job of painting a picture of the kind of man that you just want to be like. And so let me just read you some phrases describing Theo. He was free from the need to impress. I mean, that's admirable. You're around him and you're like, this person's just free from the need to impress. Comfortable in his own limited sinful skin. He would remark later that the old man, Theo, listened in a way that made one dangerously willing to talk. How about this one? He was a master at adapting the depth and tone of his comments to whomever he was with at a given moment. Be it a 12-year-old NASCAR fan, a one-armed bartender, a homeless woman, these are all characters in the story, or a disgruntled accountant. He could connect. And he always listened with interest, genuine interest, not fakery. Another one. They continued talking, mostly Theo asking questions and Manette answering. They continued talking, mostly Theo asking questions and Manette answering. Another one. It would occur to Manette later that Theo had artfully evaded her inquiry and somehow kept the conversation focused on her. He was a flurry of questions, all very appropriate and asked in a tone of genuine interest. His eyes were fixed on hers, unwandering, and he leaned toward her in a way that suggested total presence. You all have probably thought of people, if I'm describing this, someone that you talk to and you just know, like, they're with me. Like, they're right here, man. They're totally present with me. They are caring for me as they listen. Versus, I just was at the Southern Baptist Convention, and there's a lot of Elmer Gantries at the Southern Baptist Convention. And you'll be talking to someone, especially if it's someone who's kind of important, and you're talking with them. So this is me right here. I'm right here. And they're talking, and say it's a crowded room, like, the luncheon for the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary or something like that. And they're just kind of looking over your shoulder. Like, here's my face. And they're like, oh, yeah, how you doing? Okay, all right, God bless you. I found someone more important that might be more useful to me. Ugh, gross. That's the opposite of total presence. Number 4, turn your critics into coaches. Anyone ever get any criticism in here? Not just me. Life is full of criticism, especially if you're in any sort of leadership. And turn criticism into coaches. Our flesh and our pride, anytime we're criticized, is we want to defend ourselves. We need to grow to not do that. We want to grow that when we are corrected or when we're criticized, our default actually is gratitude. Wouldn't that be cool? I ain't there. I'm going to tell you, I ain't there. But if someone criticized me, and in my heart I thought, okay, sweet, an opportunity to grow, because I definitely have blind spots and maybe they're going to help me find them. Again, I'm not there. But isn't that the goal? Like, okay, here's an opportunity. This person had the boldness and the courage to call me out. Wow, they loved me. How kind of them to try to help me out. And now I've got to take this criticism and I want to think about it. I don't want to just dismiss it. I don't want to defend myself. I want to take it and I want to see, is there any meat in these bones? Sometimes it's all bones. Sometimes it's all meat. Oftentimes it's a mix. And so I want to eat the meat, spit out the bones. Where are they right? What can I learn from? How can I turn this critic into a coach? And you know what? They often are right. And often it's actually worse than they even know, because if they even know they just saw what I did, they didn't see what was in my heart. They would have a lot more to say if they could actually read my heart. I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to receive it. I'm going to filter it. Number 5, visit places that remind you that you're small. Maybe make a practice of it. Visit cemeteries and go just read some headstones and just realize, man, there's a little dash there. That's it. No one's probably visited this place in years. Just quickly forgotten. Most of you don't know. You got multiple sets of great-grandparents. Most of you might can name 2 of them. It's going to be you pretty quickly. Read obituaries. Go visit places that make you feel small. Go to the beach. We were able to go to the beach earlier this month, and you just look at the ocean. And it's pretty hard to stand by the ocean and think, I'm a pretty big deal. We went over to this Eden Garden State Park, and there was I think it was a 600-year-old Virginia live oak tree. Just amazing. You see, I'm a pretty small thing. Go to the redwoods, mountains, whatever it is, West Texas skies, study nature, look at the stars. I don't play golf, but I've heard go to the golf course, keep you humble. Number 6, acknowledge that whatever achievements you might have earned are ultimately not yours. Flip over to 1 Corinthians. Let's go 1 Corinthians 4. Good verse to memorize. Any homework this morning be memorize 1 Corinthians 4:7. It's Augustine's favorite verse. First Corinthians 4:7. For who sees anything different in you? Here's the key. What do you have that you did not receive? Turn that question to you. What do you have that you did not receive? The answer is not a thing. You have nothing. You're a created person. You have nothing. There is nothing that you have that you didn't receive. Hey, maybe you're pretty sharp. You think you can take credit for that? Maybe you're like a good athlete. Again, think you can take credit for the genes that you inherited? Maybe you've done well in business. Do you think that's all because of you? And maybe you had no help and no family and no education and no genes, and you were able to actually just go from nowhere to somewhere. Do you think that was ultimately you? What do you have that you did not receive? You think it's because you think you did that without God's help? No way. What do you have? If then you received it, and you did, even the very breath, eyesight, ability to sit, stand, walk, if then you received it, why do you boast as if you did not receive it? So we are, as creatures God created, we are receivers of everything. Humans are fundamentally receptive. And if you receive something, pride makes no sense. Paul will say later in 1 Corinthians, I worked harder than anybody. 1 Corinthians 15:10, I worked harder than anybody, but he quick to qualify it. Not I. The grace of God that is with me. So realize you haven't accomplished anything. Everything's been a gift. Number 7, stay off or severely limit social media. And this is my opinion. It's not in the Bible, but my personal opinion is that it's really foolish to have any social media on your smartphone. Maybe your work requires it, but if it doesn't, to have it on your smartphone, I'm not saying get rid of it. I'm tempted to, but I'm not. I'm not saying get rid of social media. I'm just saying put it on a browser, not where you're just too weak. In fact, the main guy from Facebook said that social media plays into a weakness of human psychology. You're too weak. You will go for it if it's right here. And you know I'm right. So just take it off. And when you need to look at it or when you want to look at it, go to a browser. I would also say log out of it so that when you have to log into it and make sure your password is I'm wasting my life right now on social. Make it a little bit harder. What is the motive for the vast majority of social media posts? Vainglory. The vast majority of posts online are what? Look at me. Look what I did. Look how good my kids are. As a pastor, it's funny because I will be doing counseling, and like a couple will not sit by each other on the couch. But boy, they're doing great online. Like, man, they love each other there, but they won't touch each other here. It's all fake. It's a fake fictional audience that people are just playing to say, look how accomplished I am. Look how pretty I am in my car seat as I got ready. I just got to take the selfie before the day starts. The vast majority is motivated by vainglory. So, man, be careful. It's like going into a room with asbestos. You better put the mask on. You're playing to a fictional audience that really doesn't care about you. They only care about getting likes from you. They don't care about liking you. They just want you to like them. Listen to Spurgeon. We have plenty of people nowadays who could not kill a mouse without publishing it in the Gospel Gazette. Samson killed a lion, said nothing about it. The Holy Spirit finds modesty so rare that he takes care to record it. Say much of what the Lord has done for you, but say little of what you've done for the Lord. Do not utter a single self-glorifying sentence. Number 8, seek to know Christ better. Pursue the Lord. John 3:30, he must increase, I must decrease. That's Christian maturity. More Christ, less you. More Christ, less you. He must increase, I must decrease. F.B. Meyer said, the only hope of a decreasing self is an increasing Christ. The only hope of a decreasing self is an increasing Christ. Andrew Humility's got a great book on humility as well. It says, humility is nothing but the disappearance of self and the vision that God is all. Disappearance of self and the vision that God is all. It's the displacement of self by the enthronement of God, where God is all and self is nothing. So focus on Christ. What does he say in Matthew chapter 11? Come to me. Learn from me, for I am humble. So keep looking to Christ. Number 9, make diligent use of the means of grace. We talk a lot about the means of grace. So we're called to grow. We come to faith in Christ, and now we're called to grow. And how are we going to grow? Well, God has given his church means, biblical means by which we can grow. And so make a diligent use of the means that he's given us. So be in the Word. Read the Word. Memorize the Word. Meditate on the Word. I'm preaching to the choir. Come to Sunday school. And God will use these means. As we're in the Word, we're going to learn 2 things that we're not going to learn anywhere else. We're going to learn God is sovereign and holy. And we're going to learn that we're sinful. Remember what the definition of humility from C.J. Mahaney? A proper estimation of oneself in light of God's holiness and our sinfulness. So as you're in the Word, humility will ensue. Prayer. You're going to God in prayer for all your needs, praising him. So you're praising him, and again, you're realizing how large he is, how small he is, or we're asking for help, and again, we're realizing that we're weakness depending on strength. Prayerlessness is pride. Church, we come in here and we're reminded that we're part of something great that's not about us, and we're given opportunities to put others above ourselves. Serving others is a means of grace. So giving of self to serve others. Sharing the gospel. Man, share the gospel this week. You want to be humbled? Share the gospel. Evangelism is humbling. We're going to have the Lord's Supper. We're going to be reminded who we are and whose we are. We do corporate confession of sin as well. So it's this corporate reminder that we come together here in this room because we're sinners who need forgiveness. And then we follow it up with an assurance of pardon. He's paid for the debt. Let me read, you don't have to turn there, but let me read from Isaiah 66 to close our time together. Thus says the Lord, heaven is my throne and the earth is my footstool. What is the house that you would build for me, and what is the place of my rest? All these things my hand has made, and so all these things came to be. This is the sovereign and majestic God on high. But, he says, what takes notice of the sovereign and transcendent Creator? This is the one to whom I will look. I'm all ears. He who is humble and contrite in spirit and trembles at my word. Who does the Most High God look to? The one who is humble and contrite in spirit and trembles at his word. May God give us the grace to grow. Knowledge of his holiness, knowledge of our sinfulness, that humility might ensue.